The simplest command you can carry out on a file is the touch command, followed by a file name. This simply accesses a file before immediately closing it without actually doing anything. I'm currently working on the desktop. You can see here that the file called new didn't exist, so touch has created an empty file called new instead. If I touch the file called old, you can see that it hops to being the most recently accessed file. If we try to read the new file, it's empty because we only touched it. We haven't written anything to it yet, and we'll do that in another video. To make a directory, we type mkdir, make directory, followed by the name we want. We can make a copy of this file called new by typing cp followed by the file name and then whatever we want to call the duplicate file. We can also use cp to copy the file into our test directory by typing cp followed by the file name again and then where we want to copy it to. And we can combine both examples to copy it into a different directory under a new name in one step. However, please be aware that if a file by this name already existed in our directory, it would have been overwritten without warning. Once you do that, there's no way to retrieve the original file. There is no recycling bin in Bash, and the command line does not prompt you to ask if you're sure before deleting something. This is the first danger of working in the command line. We can copy the test directory by adding the R argument to the cp command. R means recursive, which just tells cp to copy everything in this directory as well as everything inside the things that this contains recursively. These examples also work with the mv command, which means move. This functions in exactly the same way as cp, except the original file is deleted instead of being duplicated. Therefore, in some ways, the mv command is even more dangerous than cp. It's the most standard way to simply rename a file though, but the same warnings apply from before about accidentally overwriting files. To remove a file, we just type rm followed by the file name. It's scary that it really is that easy, so please be careful with this command. You can easily cause irreversible damage. If you delete something, it's gone, and I can't stress that enough. It's seriously damaging when using wildcards, which is something I'll teach you in a different session. As you're learning and experimenting with the command line, you're inevitably going to encounter these mistakes. You might want to consider practicing somewhere safe, even in a virtual machine, which is what I'm using here. In a similar way to making a directory, if we want to remove a directory, we type rmdir, remove directory, instead. If the directory contains files, the shell will try to block you from deleting it. However, using rm with the r and f arguments will successfully delete a directory that does contain files. This is because r means recursive, as we've discussed, and f means force, which is really telling the shell that you know exactly how reckless and silly you're being and that you insist it carries out this command immediately.